Welcome to Canterbury Cast, the podcast where you'll find sermons, conversations, and all things Canterbury UMC. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to Canterbury Cast. I'm Hill Carmichael, and today we're celebrating something really special. A ministry that has faithfully and joyfully and sometimes very loudly changed lives for the past decade. This year marks the 10th anniversary of Encore Respite Ministry. Encore is one of those places that once you see it and experience it, you never forget it. It's full of life, it's full of laughter, it's full of creativity, and above all, a deep dignity and respect for every person who walks through its doors. And today, we have the privilege of hearing from two people who know this ministry inside and out, Valerie Boyd and Ann Warren. Valerie and Ann, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're very excited to be here.
We're thrilled to do this. One of my first introductions, one of the first days I was here at Canterbury, somebody whisked me up to Encore, and I think it was probably one of y'all. And it is filled with so much joy. But before we get there, I want to go back 10, 12 years, whenever the vision started to form. And I want to hear from both of you about how things got started.
Okay, well, I'll kind of start us off. So it was actually 11 years ago. I started the support group first when I first came to Canterbury. And we had maybe 5 or 6 people that met every Thursday at 10 o'clock. And one of the things that they kept saying after listening to them and how exhausted they are and the day-to-day task of caregiving and the emotional and mental stress that it brings on to a caregiver. But one of the things they kept saying was, we need a daycare here at Canterbury. We need a daycare. We need a place to bring our loved ones. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, we're not going to have an adult daycare here at Canterbury. That's just not going to work.
And do you think they were thinking of something like McCoy Adult Daycare?
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
And so, but I am a firm believer. If I don't believe anything else, I do believe that God puts all the right people in our lives at just the right time. Mm-hmm. And right after that, I got a call from Barbara Crane, one of our members here. And she said, hey, I heard about this program in Montgomery, and a few of us are going down there. And would you like to come and just see what it is? It's a social model respite program for people living with early to moderate stage dementia. And so I said, sure, I'll go. So we piled down there, and I walked in the door, and I knew immediately, we've got to have this at Canterbury. And so I talked with Daphne, who kind of started this whole movement. And she said, you need to get a mover and a shaker at Canterbury. Who do you know that has passion, who has got the drive? And I immediately thought of Ann Warren. And so I called Ann, and I said, I really want you to see this. Will you come down and look at this with me and see if we can bring this to Canterbury? And then...
And I said, that's a good place for you to jump in.
And I said, that will never work. I thought I couldn't imagine what that would look like.
Yeah.
We certainly had the space here to do it, but I just couldn't vision in my mind what it was.
Yeah.
But I, of course, told Valerie I would. We drove down. I walked in the door, and joy just covered me. And love, you couldn't tell who had dementia, who were the volunteers. There was laughter, and I thought, we've got to do this at Canterbury. We can do this at Canterbury. And really, on the way home, we figured out we needed to get some contributions and just start it, just jump right in. So
how many did y'all start with? I'm just curious.
We started with 7 participants, and I think we had probably around 20 volunteers that actually came that day, and just have grown exponentially. But I mean, first we started off, I think maybe it was even 2 days a week we started, then we went to 3, and then we went to 4. before COVID. We had 4 days.
And before we opened, of course, we had to come up with a job description. We had to hire people, and we hired the absolute best director of Encore in Patty, and then Kristen works wonderfully with our families, and it's just, they have a great team, and Valerie's right there.
We absolutely, I mean, Kristen and Patty are just amazing at what they do, and once again, God brought us all together. I believe that, and one thing just kept following the other, and things just kept falling into place. And the more the volunteers heard about it and the more involved they got, then they told their friends. And I know at one point we had over 35 different churches involved in this ministry.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me about when someone, like you noted that this started out of support group. Really, I mean, this was a need that arose from support group. So when you are attending a support group, or if you're someone who doesn't even have a support group, what are you going through when you don't have a program like Encore? You're looking for a program like Encore. What are you going through at those beginning stages of realizing your loved one is going down this path, and that you are going to go down this path with them?
You know, that's a great question. We see this a lot in our caregivers that come to us. And, you know, from the very beginning, when they first see the sign, where they first see something that's a little off, and they kind of go, and then they start seeing more signs, and they start seeing more, and they finally get to the diagnosis.
Yeah.
And when they get to the diagnosis, there's no cure right now for this. And so, you know, they basically tell you to make sure your affairs are in order, power of attorney, all the legal things. And now, thankfully, here in Birmingham, they do refer to the respite programs in Birmingham. But just someone that's all across the country, it's a devastating diagnosis. And these caregivers, I mean, when they come to us and they somehow find their way to us, they are so exhausted, they're broken, they're afraid, they're anxious, they're uncertain, and they need a place that they can come and feel supported and learn the new skills of how to better communicate with someone who has dementia, because there is a new love language that you learn. And then to top off what we, you know, to be able to offer Encore to the loved one is
and
wonderful.
I really think you have grown a support group so tremendously. From 7 to now, we probably have 60 or 70 in a week that come to the 3 different support groups. And I think almost that's more important part of Encore than for participants, because the participants are sort of oblivious to what's going on with them. It's the caregiver who carry the weight of living and decisions and the frustrations that they have with their loved one's behavior.
And when they graduate, we continue on with the caregiver. So when the participant no longer qualifies, the families and caregivers, they still come to support group, and we walk the entire journey with them all the way to the end, providing resources and things that they need along the way.
Yeah, that's incredible. What do you see as kind of those tangible, intangible, whatever impacts that someone who didn't have Encore and then their loved one all of a sudden has Encore? What do you see in their lives? What do you see happen, both with the caregiver and the participant?
Well, I would say, first of all, that they feel like they have a new family. They have a community of people who understand. And for the participant, it's given them new life. They feel like they still have meaning and purpose. It's their friends. They look they're so excited about coming. And when they get there, they're laughing. Everything that we do there is designed to help them feel successful and like they do still have a purpose in life. And we're laughing, we're doing music, we're doing art, we're exercising, we're doing everything to stimulate their brain, and the volunteers, really all of us. But you don't realize that's what you're doing. But more than anything, it's the socialization that they feel so loved. And lots of times they don't remember what they did while they're there, but they remember the way they feel. And so they can't wait to come back. And for the caregiver, I mean, they have used words like life-changing, life-giving, life-affirming, because they are around people who understand. They, just as in grief groups or cancer support groups, or, they understand each other, and they really rely on each other. They've all exchanged numbers. They go to lunch together, and it's beautiful.
You see one of them telling something that happened that week and how they dealt with it, and you can just see the heads nodding.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've experienced that. Or just it's unbelievable, the stress that I think that support helps unwind for them and gives them tools. We talk about having tools in a toolbox that you can pull out and use.
Yeah.
And I think Valerie does such a beautiful job of that.
And as a layperson, I think one of the things I love to hear most is from the lay people who are the volunteers. And can you talk a little bit about, from the lay perspective, the importance of Encore?
It is one of the most joyful things I do at the church, and I love Canterbury. I've been here over 50 years, and just to see people that I have known casually, but now they're at my table when we are in Encore, or to be involved with people from outside the community who come to Canterbury and sing in our choir, or come on a regular basis. I would say most of our volunteers have days that they come and are very loyal to that for 4.5 or 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
I just think that it's just a beloved time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious too about one word that keeps popping up for me with Encore is the dignity it brings. And I think there was probably like a lot of time in human history where we were more undignified, and how we stigmatized folks with dementia, where we placed them. And so can y'all talk a little bit about, I'm not asking for a history or a timeline, but can you just talk about how you've seen like the Respite for All movement, programs like Encore, really change how we interact and engage with our brothers and sisters who are walking along on this journey?
Respite for All is like an umbrella, and now we have like 72 Encore type programs all over the country, which is really remarkable. And Daphne Johnston in Montgomery is the one who started that. And as you said, to have dignity for their person. Nobody knows who a volunteer is or who a participant is. It's just not important, and we don't know. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about it outside of Encore. It's very confidential.
Yeah, and I think we try really hard, and we have from the day we started, is stopping that stigma of what it means to live with dementia.
Right.
And, their Respite for All's tagline is reclaiming joy together. And that's what we do. We reclaim joy, because there is joy in this journey. But you, just like anything else, you have to learn about it. You have to learn as much as you can about it. You have to learn the new skills and the best way to respond, even though that's not easy. And these caregivers will tell you that. I mean, they have changed. I mean, we have seen true spiritual transformation in these families from when they come to us and they're, arguing with their person, and they're, trying to help them remember I told you this, remember, and they just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And then once they come in and they're learning how to better communicate, and they're learning really more about themselves and finding strength and courage in themselves that they never knew that they had. But it is very, very important to us that we always have such high respect and regard for our participants. If they were to ever have an accident, no one ever knows about it, because we just handle the situation. And we just want them to have the best day ever.
Yeah.
And I was going to tell you about the best day ever.
I want to hear about the best day ever. That's where I was hoping we were going.
So in the very beginning, when we had one of our participants, and she was walking out that day. This is when we were downstairs, and we were walking out the door, and Patty and Kristen and I were on the side of her, and we were walking, and we were singing side by side, and she just looked, and she had the biggest smile on her face, and she said, "This has been the best day ever." But what's interesting about that is that her friend picked her up that day, and they drove off, and they went to go run errands, and Miss Joyce had a heart attack and died. But she had the best day ever.
Golly.
I know. Isn't that great?
That's an incredible story.
So we gave her the best day ever. So that is our goal, is to give everybody that walks through the door the best day ever.
And, caregivers can tell when their people have had a good day, especially if we sing. We usually sing at the very end of the day. And something about singing catches the soul of all of us. And particularly, I think of people who have dementia. And we've had loved ones in support say, Janet was so happy when she got in the car. And it's amazing.
Yeah. We had someone last week, in fact, who she's been coming to support group for a while, and she had her husband come, and he had just been sitting in front of the TV. He had not been engaged in anything, not engaged with her. It was really hard for her. And so he came, and she texted later and said, "I don't even know how to put into words what has happened this afternoon." That he is so happy. He's laughing. He's talking about the day. The TV hasn't even come on. I mean, it was just, and we hear that. We get so many just responses and feedback from our families, just saying how they sleep better, they eat better. They're, they're more in tune to what's going on. So, yeah.
Walk me through, one, I know that no day is alike at Encore. But walk me through kind of generally what someone can experience and expect if you came to Encore.
So the volunteers have a meeting at 9:30 to kind of hear about the day, and then many of us go downstairs to meet those who are coming for the day. And we have puzzles on the table. Then we have a devotion every day. We have exercise every day. We have a topic like we raised a flock of butterflies and set them free. And awesome. We learned that bananas float. I bet you didn't know that. Check it out. They do. So things like that. Then we have lunch and play balloon volleyball, which I've not seen you up there, Hill. You need to come play with us.
Very competitive.
It looks really competitive. I'm intimidated when I walk by.
And bingo, and we sing and go home. It's the same, like every 20 minutes or so, there's something different.
Yeah.
And in the beginning when they come and we're doing the puzzles or word searches or something like that, and they're having coffee, and it's we call it kind of like a coffee shop, because they don't really get to go out and have coffee with their friends anymore and do things like that. And so in everything that we do, the puzzles or the word searches or crossword puzzles, whatever we're doing, we make sure that they can do it. And if they can't do something specific, then we get them something that they can. So they're always, it's a win for them.
That's awesome. That's so great. All right. 10 years.
10 years.
And we've got a celebration coming up.
We do. Yes.
Can y'all talk about May 31st a little bit in our last few minutes?
Yes. Well, I mean, first of all, I just cannot believe that we have been here 10 years. I mean, that is just crazy to think about. Patty and Chris and I love to look back. We're always sending each other pictures and videos from back in the day and how much we've changed and how, the people that have been with us. And we've probably served close to 1,200 different families over these past 10 years. But we're really excited about that. On May 31st, we're going to celebrate. We're going to have a service, a contemporary service, and Keith, I believe, is going to do the service, and it's also his birthday that day, so everyone needs to come. So we have a big celebration. But we're going to show a video, and I think talk a little bit about Encore that day, and then at 11:30 we are going to have a big reception in Canterbury Hall. And all are invited. It's probably going to be a lot of people. We're going to have people from the last 10 years that have been anyway involved in Encore.
At least we hope they come.
At least we hope they do.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Big
So,
day.
Big day.
I just want to say, as we're wrapping up, one of the best things we did as a staff, or I know you all did it, but the impact it had on us as a staff and this church and the church culture is when Encore moved rooms, when it moved from the chapel side to the small dining room, and people come in, and we have meetings in Canterbury Center, Canterbury Conference Room, and Reniker, and feet start stomping, and the people who aren't used to it look up and look around, and we just say, "Oh, that's Encore," and they're like, "What is Encore?" And we get to tell them, about it, right? And I love the symbolism and the theology behind not putting people over there, but putting them right in the middle of everything. And not so much because it helps them, but it's made us better.
True.
And those participants are pastoring us. And that's one of the things that continues to amaze me about Encore, 10 years in the making.
And we're always, if you're listening to this and you made it this far, we are always looking for volunteers.
And you can come just for the day and
just
see what it's
check
like.
it out.
And you feel the joy. You're going to want to be part of that.
And, it's just so wonderful because when you walk in there, we're not talking about politics. We're not talking about anything but what's happening right in front of us.
Yeah.
And everyone truly is just so filled with joy, and we love to hug, and it really is a joyful place. So please come and see us.
Well, Valerie, Ann, thank y'all both very much. And Canterbury, if you're listening, we want you to come on May 31st at 10:30 to worship to celebrate Encore's 10 years. And I hope you'll be there because you might just have the best day ever. Thanks, guys.
Yay!
Thanks for listening. To learn more about what's going on at Canterbury, follow us on social media or visit our website at canterburyumc.org.